Hello, wherever you're tuning in from, this is the Investors Corner, exploring hidden treasures with me, Tech Stephen Good. In this episode, I'm glad to be joined by the Minister of Petroleum, Honorable Puot Kang Chol. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for responding to our call and giving us your time to talk to SSBC on very important current affairs, especially on issues of economy and petroleum, the ministry that you lead. And it is from this perspective that we would like to find out the latest development in your ministry. We have seen recently your ministry has been following up on the issue of unifying the payment structure for both local and foreign staff who work at different institutions of the petroleum and oil sector. What is the relevance of unifying the payment structure and how important it is?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me take an SSBC. I'm more than glad to be with you today. And I think this have also taken quite some time. We would have done it some time back. Now getting to what you're asking, what is the importance of having unified human resource policy manual? First of all, let us define what is human resource policy manual. This is a document that is looking at the relationship, that is managing the relationship between the employee and the employer. It looks at what are the conditions, what are the duties, what are the responsibilities of an employer, and what are those that are for an employee, and what are the rights. This is a document that defines those. In the Sudan, there was 2008 unified. It was done in 2007, then again amended in 2008. There was unified human resource policy manual that was defining the working condition in the Sudan previously. But then when we came to South Sudan, when we became an independent state, the JOCs decided to throw it, to shelve that, and the industry was left without a document that is managing what I call as a relationship between employee and employers. And that became difficult. Now, when I became a minister, I was faced with a situation where national staffs were going on a strike every now and then. And the question became, how do we resolve the strike? When we called national staffs, we had a lot of meetings with them. We realized it's not just a matter of having a ministerial order or a directive to the JOCs. There's something bigger than what we were seeing in the field. As a result, we decided to say, well, there is need for us to have unified human resource policy manual. And then I made a ministerial order, form a committee, which was led by former Undersecretary of the Ministry of Petroleum, Honorable Machara Chek. They have looked through, they have gone to other parts of the world, they have seen how such industry like ours are managed. And as a result, we came up with a unified human resource policy manual. Now, how important is it? I would like to mention something very important, and I think it's important to all the South Sudanese. People look at it as if it only addresses the grievances of those who are in the oil sector. To me, it is more than that. First of all, if I give you an example, when we were in the Sudan, a president of a company who was a foreigner was receiving $13,415 a month. But a vice president who was a Sudanese was receiving $12,266 a month. The difference was 1,000 something dollars. When the companies came to South Sudan, they decided to change that without prior approval from the Ministry of Petroleum. Now, how is it important, the approval? This is cost oil. It is South Sudan that is paying that money. It's not their money. It's our money. And it is South Sudan that is paying the employees that are here. Meaning, per the EPSA, the Minister of Petroleum who is representing the government of the Republic of South Sudan, was supposed to approve any increase of payment. Approval was not given. They did not even seek for it. Instead, they increased the numbers until when it reached, for a Chinese, $75,504 a month. That is a salary of a president who is a Chinese. Today, the president of GPOC, who is a Chinese, is receiving $75,504 a month. And a vice president is receiving $11,000. You look at the gap, you ask yourself, what happened? What happened? That's number one. The least pay, secondee, is $7,200 a month. Non-junior executive on short term. Basically, it's like somebody who is doing internship. Is receiving $7,200 a month. Now we say, there is need for us to sit down. And this is what we were telling the partners. There is need for us to sit down so that we harmonize. If you are to be there, where you are, then let's uplift these people a little bit. Let's bring them a bit closer to you. If the distance was 1,000 kilometers away, let's bring it closer, maybe to half of that, so that your employees become as happy as you are, so that they become productive. Because one of the things that we are facing today is that you have a workforce that is not productive.
Well, Honorable Minister, apologies to cut you, but to clarify a point that you just mentioned,
yes,
that this unified human resource policy is not only affecting the Ministry of Petroleum, you mentioned this, but seeing it from a perspective that the staff of the Ministry of Petroleum are public servants. And there is a public service policy also for the staff. How different is the structure for public servant and the structure that the unified human resource policy that you're talking about now?
I'm going to come to you, Tech. What I'm trying to explain to you is, now given that gap, we want to close it. The staffs that I have at the ministry today, they receive the same as what you are receiving. But the staff we are talking about are the staffs of the JOCs, Joint Operating Companies. That is Dar Petroleum, Greater Pioneer Operating Company, and SPOC. These are the people we are talking at. Plus any future company that will come to the Republic of South Sudan will have to adhere to such policy. How does it help South Sudanese? If we increase your pay as a South Sudanese, it means the tax that you are going to pay will increase. Now, if a president, for example, if a president gets $30,000, if a vice president gets $30,000, and you take 25% of $35,000, you'll be talking approximately about $4,000, which will come to the government. If you collect that money from the JOCs, you and I will be paid by the government. That is number one. Number two, these South Sudanese, they will not take their money abroad. They will build houses here. The government will be able to take tax when they are building, the cement they use, the aggregate they use, the workers that they are paying. The government will take tax from them. If they open businesses, such businesses will be taxed by the government, business profit tax. It will still come back to us. What are we looking at? We are looking at a situation where we want to bring in hard currency into the country. What does taxation law say? It said you will be taxed based on the currency that you are paid with. Meaning, if you are paying dollars, you will pay dollar as a tax. We will be able to contribute to the building reserve in the central bank. That's not the only point that we are looking at. The only point is we want to develop the confidence of our people. If I give you an example today, you have an engineer who is working maybe with a Malaysian or a Chinese or an Indian engineer. They have the same title, they have the same office, they do the same job. But a Chinese or a Malaysian or an Indian will be getting $50 a day as a shift allowance. And a South Sudanese will be getting $2.8 a day. Now, where will that person get the confidence from? Because you are building inferiority complex in that particular human being. we want to remove that. We want to tell them, you can do it better than any other person. We want to tell them they have the capacity to run the oil sector, those South Sudanese, and that it is your turn, it is your chance to do it for us today. We have increased that pay to 38, the shift, from $3 to 38. And these people, they still have their 50. But my interest is not only money. My interest and the interest of the Ministry of Petroleum is to see into it that after these EPSAs come to an end, what next? Do we have a capable human resource? To me, yes. But we need to build their confidence. We need to bring them to the same level. We need to tell them that you can do it and that we believe in you as a country. And by doing so, we must give them what they deserve so that they tomorrow give us what we deserve. And that's what we are looking at. And also, let us not look at it on the perspective of those who are there today. You are in SSBC today. You have what it takes. You are a professional. You may decide to work in the oil sector tomorrow. It will be good for you. But leave alone yourself. Your own daughter, your own son may decide to say tomorrow, I'm going to work in the oil sector. So we are looking at it on a broader perspective, not just those who are there today, as some people may perceive.
And away from the Unified Human Resource Policy, we would also like to know about the allocation of quotas, the percentages that are allocated to communities that are residing in oil-producing areas and states that are producing oils. How is these percentages being used in terms of development, because they initially meant for development? How are these states benefiting from these percentages and how are they being implemented?
Well, that question, the right person who will be able to answer it will be the Minister of Finance. However, let me give you what I know. Communities, producing areas, by law, they have 3%. The states, 2%. In total, 5%. Now, when we sell oil, our responsibility as the Ministry of Petroleum is to market our crude through the marketing committee. And this marketing committee, it comprises of different institutions. People may think it's only Ministry of Petroleum. The chairperson is the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Petroleum, but the Ministry of Finance are represented, the Bank of South Sudan, Ministry of Justice, National Security. These are institutions that market our crude. Once we get a buyer through tender, the best bidder take the crude, buy the crude. Once we get that person, we don't see the money. The money goes to the account of the Ministry of Finance. Finance receive. It is finance that pay the allocation, the 3% to the communities, the 2% to the states. Now, once they pay them, it's up to them, the states and the communities, to decide what to do with that money. It's not up to the Ministry of Finance to tell them, do this and don't do that. We also have a percentage as a Ministry of Petroleum. We do. What comes to us, as I'm speaking to you today, we have done things that are tangible. They can be seen. But on top of that, I have invited the audit chamber to come and audit the Ministry of Petroleum. Basically to say, this is what we receive, this is what we have done. They will reconcile the figures. If we have done it wrong, they will tell us you got it wrong. If we have done it right, they will tell us you did it right. But what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is I'm also asking the states and the communities to do the same. Allow audit on the percentages that are allocated to them so that you are corrected if you get it wrong.
Speaking about the audit chamber and the importance of auditing what is being produced in South Sudan, I would like to ask you about the work of your Ministry of Petroleum in relation to the line ministries. You mentioned earlier the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, and the other concerned institutions that work together with the Ministry of Petroleum in marketing the oil of the country. But now, when you bring in the audit chamber, you said you have invited them to audit. Has it been done by your predecessors before, or this is the first time that the Ministry of Petroleum is inviting audit chamber to audit how much money is, or how much petroleum is sold and all this? And also, maybe if you can add on top of that, the issue of the National Revenue Authority. Some people think that the work of National Revenue Authority is to collect the non-oil revenue. Is it so, or also is extended to also regulate the revenues that are generated by the Ministry of Petroleum?
Was it done by the people who were there before me? I would say no, and they have a reason why they did not do that, and I agree with them, because they did not have enough time. The person who was supposed to do it was Engineer Daniel, and he did not have enough time to be in the ministry, because the 3% that was allocated to the Ministry of Petroleum, Ministry of Finance started paying it in 2019, September. Awo came in and removed. So he did not have the time where you can say after a year you can do an audit. Then I came in after that in 2020. And I have invited now the National Revenue Authority to audit from September, the first payment, up to today, up to 2021, to say this is how much you receive, this is what we have done with it. If we have not done it, they will tell us. So they did not have that opportunity to do it, simply because the previous ministers who were there, they were not given such allocation. And the person who came and fought for it did not have enough time to be in the office so that he can pursue it. That is one. Two, Revenue Authority. What are they looking at? They are collecting tax and fees on behalf of the government. Meaning, the companies that are operating in the oil sector, if under the law, are supposed to pay business profit tax, is the responsibility of the Revenue Authority to collect. The PIT of those who are working in the oil sector is the responsibility of the Revenue Authority to collect. The fees that we are collecting here, because we are issuing oil certificate, it is the National Revenue Authority to collect. Now, the payment of sale of crude, this money belongs to the Ministry of Finance. We, according to Petroleum Act, we only market it. Our responsibility is to go to the market. We do the marketing for our oil. The money goes to the account of finance. It's not a tax. It's a sale. But any tax related item, the money must be collected by the National Revenue Authority. Good.
Let's take a short break, Honorable Minister, and we'll be back shortly. The Investors Corner takes a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. There are plenty of investment opportunities in this world's youngest nation of South Sudan. To better understand the economy and explore the thriving market of this country, you ought to get out of your comfort zone. You either hustle under the scorching sun in Konyo Konyo market, run errands at a small or medium business enterprise, or better yet, chair a conglomerate board meeting at a high-end tower in Juba. While awaiting an official business trip to the region. Whatever you do, just don't rest. Work hard, think big, and be smart in order to count all your economic blessings through this weekly business show of the Investors Corner, exploring hidden treasures. Join us every week at this time. Welcome back. This is the Investors Corner, where we explore hidden treasures with me, Tech Stephen Ugut. And in this episode, as you've seen before the break, I am joined by the Minister of Petroleum, Honorable Puot Kang. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
we were discussing about the positive strides and progress made by your ministry in improving the economy and so forth. And before the break, you were explaining about the role of Audit Chamber in working with your ministry in ensuring that there is positive progress. And the reason I was raising that issue is because most South Sudanese, they only know that South Sudan produces oil. Nothing beyond that is information to them. Is there a mechanism that the Ministry of Petroleum uses to sensitize the public, for example, about the daily, if not weekly, update about how much crude oil in terms of barrels of South Sudan oil is sold to the international market and so forth? Because as of now, as we speak, majority of South Sudanese, they only know that South Sudan produces oil and that's it.
Well, we have a mechanism, but it has not been very effective. And we are looking at how do we strengthen it, how do we make it effective so that we keep updating the people of South Sudan. 2 weeks ago, I went to Parliament where I was able to update them on the production that we had in 2021 until March 2022. And I have done that as well to Public Financial Management Oversight Committee. And in the next 2 weeks or so, we will be having a petroleum magazine that will be able to show, maybe for the first time, the figures from Nal Blend. How many barrels did we have as a government entitlement? How much was a barrel in the market? And how much is the whole of it as a cargo? And who took it? Where did the money go? It is going to be outside there. It will also be on our website. Tomorrow morning, if God allow, if you come here at 10, we'll be sitting here looking at our new website, where whatever I'm telling you will be published on that website, and the people of South Sudan will be able to see and scrutinize. Now, our people will say South Sudan produce 150-something thousand barrels a day. They will just calculate it. I wanted to say something. There is something called cost oil and profit oil. Cost oil is the money that is spent, and the partners must take that money back. Whatever remain, we call it profit oil. What remain, we will divide it again with partners. Government will take 80%, partners will take 20%. This is basically to say, as I'm speaking to you today, mostly every month, we have one cargo from Dar Blend and one cargo from Nal Blend. When I talk of Dar Blend and Nal Blend, meaning in Paloj, area of Paloj, we have only one cargo. That is 600,000 barrels a month. The same Nal Blend is the area of Unity. You have about 600,000 barrels every month. This is two cargoes. Now these two, the Nal is dedicated for roads. But the money goes to finance. We market it, we sell it, the money goes to finance. Finance is the one to pay whoever is entitled for payment. The Dar Blend, sometimes we pay obligation. When I say obligation, there are lenders that are outside there. They are looking for money from the government of South Sudan. We pay them. If the Ministry of Finance tell us, pay this person. Or the money goes to finance, and they look at the priorities of the government and decide which priority to handle first. So that is what we do. But I would say we are working on how to strengthen outreach, in a sense that we will be able to tell South Sudanese, this is what we get, this is where it goes.
And still on the international market and sale of the crude oil of South Sudan, in the current affairs right now, all over the world, is the news about the war in Europe. We are not talking about the political aspect of it, but economic aspect of it, where as of today, the barrel in the international, the barrel of oil has almost reached $140. And that is for a country that is producing crude oil like South Sudan, that the international prices are going high. It might be good in one way, but also as a country that is still importing processed or refined oil, the prices also is going high. So it will also in one way or another affect our economy. So how do you make of this situation that are happening globally now in terms of South Sudan?
You see, as you put it, Tech, it's catch-22. When I look at my TV and see the prices go up, I celebrate, because I will be looking at how, if we get the 2 cargoes that I tell you, we sell them, the government may be able to pay public servant, civil servant. But again, once you are paid, how will the commodity market look like? From fuel to all the rest that we import, because we only import. The only export that we have is crude as a country. But all other items, we only import. How will it look like? Again, it brings you down to your knee to say, well, we may be affected. And at the same time, it generates a thinking, because our production is not that high. Before the crisis, we were looking at 300 and something thousand barrels a day. Today you are looking at 150 something thousand barrels a day. Our idea has been, how do we increase production? But then our hands are tied, because we are doing that with partners. We are not doing it alone as a government. And the partners, before they go into anything that take money from them, they look at the return on investment. When will they return that money back? When will they get it back? So one would wish, if I go to 300 something, I may produce, I may get more money. But at the same time, if the world does not increase production, the prices on fuel will increase. But through OPEC, we are pushing as a country. We are a member of plus OPEC. There are members of OPEC, but we are plus. They call it OPEC plus. We are pushing that the world should increase production, meaning whoever have the opportunity, a window to increase their production, they should do that, so that we fill the gap that is created by what is happening. And that's what we are pushing for. And a lot of countries are going to increase, and I believe the fuel prices will still be at that level, which is going to be good for South Sudan. And that's what we are looking at.
Yes, and still in the oil sector, South Sudan has been, in the past couple of years, talking about an alternative pipeline, knowing very well that up to now, South Sudan does not own a single pipeline. The pipeline we're using is owned by Sudan and the companies. And there has been talk about having an alternative pipeline to the international market, maybe through Djibouti or through Mombasa and Lamu. Nothing has been materialized so far. What is the progress of such projects? And also, on similar notes, there is also talks about refineries. We understand that there is one refinery completed in South Sudan, but it's not yet operational. What is the ministry, together with the revitalized government, doing to ensure that these two major projects comes to light?
Thank you once again. I think these are very, very vital questions. In regard to pipeline, there have been studies that have been conducted, feasibility studies. One from here to Lamu, from South Sudan to Lamu, the other one, South Sudan, Djibouti. If you look at the distance, South Sudan, Djibouti is closer to the oil producing areas. That is distance-wise. Now, That project is a very good project. But in terms of numbers, economic viability of it, is it viable? One would say yes, it is viable if certain conditions are met. I took good part of my 2021 in the office and end of 2020 to look at this particular project. And I've been moving around the region, and I was saying, if we are to take it to Djibouti, if we get Congo on board to put in, to connect their pipeline through us, is very viable. The project will be very viable. South Sudan will be able to make money in a sense that we will charge transit fees to any country that connect and will move. The same if we were to gain Congo, we were going to gain Uganda. That is if we are going through Djibouti. And that was going to give us a plus on top. But if we decide to go Lamu, we will have an alternative, but it's Kenya that will be benefiting. Now, in terms of numbers on our side, will the reserve that we have, will it be able to compensate the investment? The answer now from us is not yes, is not no. But in the near future, we will be able to answer you. How will we be able to answer you? As I'm speaking to you, we have a plan, geophysical plan, that will be doing the survey. And given that, we will be able to look at what is the reserve that we have. Is the numbers the same as what we were told previously? Have the numbers increased? If the numbers increased, then it's very viable. If the numbers decrease, then it might not be viable. So what I'm trying to say is, it is a project that is in the mind of South Sudan. It is in the mind and the heart of the Ministry of Petroleum, but we want to do it, or we want to follow technical advice rather than political advice. Technically, the people who will be doing the job will be able to say these numbers or this reserve will be able to cover this, and this will be the benefits to the people of South Sudan. If I'm still the minister, I will come back to the government and the people of South Sudan to say, this is how it will benefit you, so I urge you to go for it. And if it is not, we will come back and say it is not. But it's a project that is worth it. Politically, it will give us leverage as a country. We will have alternatives. But we want to do it based on numbers. That is number one. Two, on the refineries. The one of Unity, you remember it was open. It has to be, again, shut down because we don't have evacuation route. The products cannot reach the market. There are no roads, basically. And this is the dilemma that we have. Tarjat is one of the best places to have a refinery. But if you put it in Tarjat, the question becomes, how will the product reach the market? Will it be the same as that of Unity? It's very difficult to do. But again, we are, in our plan and our priorities, we are saying we must have refineries in Apanal and in Unity. And we are pushing for those. They are in our plan. We must do them. But again, I want to inform you also that the sanctions that we think they are a joke, they are not. In a sense that some investors, they don't take South Sudan serious. But we are saying, look, we are a sovereign state, we must move forward. And we'll overcome all these sanctions. So it's better you come now and invest. Because by the time that you are waiting for, when that time comes, you may not have a space to come and invest. So we are looking at that, and we have gone around the world. We have so many applications. The technical people are betting them, because also we are mindful that we have too many companies that come to South Sudan. They don't necessarily come to do work. They are brokers. They come and break deals. They go back to go and look for money. So we are mindful, and we are betting them through the process.
Yes, and Honorable Minister, economic-wise, South Sudan relies probably around 90% of its economy on the oil, petroleum. And the government has been conducting initiatives of making use of this petroleum for development in different sectors. Like we have seen the use of oil to, support the investment in road infrastructure, which we have seen positive strides on the ongoing construction of Juba-Rumbek Road. Also similar plans are being used to use oil money to support agriculture. How viable can these one institution, Ministry of Petroleum, support the entire economic sector?
If prioritized well, yes, it can. But if not prioritized well, all the projects, nothing will move. What I mean by prioritization is, if we say this one is a priority because this is how it will help South Sudan, let's put money into it, let's realize it, so that that particular sector will again be able to contribute something that will now push another sector. So prioritization matters a lot in this sense. And if done well by the institutions concerned, then we can get somewhere. I was telling you earlier that we don't have evacuation route for the refinery products to come to the market. That is very true. Meaning, having road access in the Republic of South Sudan is very important, so that whatever you produce will be able to go to the market. You need roads so that you take petroleum product and as well as agricultural products to the market. But at the same time, you need agriculture more than anything else again, because this is food that we eat, and we are all aware that our land is so fertile that if we embarked on it, we may import food outside South Sudan. We may export food outside South Sudan instead of importing food into South Sudan. So it's important that we also look at the agricultural sector. It's very, very important. Now, another question that will come: will development in the Republic of South Sudan come without industries? Like having factories? I think the answer will be no. But again, if you are to have them, do you have the power to produce? The answer again, you cannot produce without power. So how do we balance these priorities? This is why I was saying we must ask ourselves which one is economical that will add something on the table, to the basket, so that whatever we have on the basket will now be able to fund another project.
And Honorable Minister, because of time, we'd like to leave it there, but I will give you just brief few minutes to give us your closing remarks and your takeaway points as we conclude this program.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank SSBC for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you about what we are doing in the petroleum sector. I know the expectation of our people is more than what we could imagine, and we may not be meeting the expectation of our people, not because we don't want to, but simply because we may not have what it takes in terms of the enormous challenges that we may be having on our table. But one thing that we will have to put outside there is the fact that we have the interest, we have the will to push this sector to the right direction. That we have it. We may not have the tools to implement the will, but we have the will to move this industry to a different level where it can benefit the people of South Sudan who deserve it the most. This is one thing that I would like to bring to your attention. The second thing that I would like to bring to your attention is the importance of having peace and stability in the Republic of South Sudan. I'm a young person. It is my generation, my age mate, that are sitting under the trees who have no job. And I have nothing to do to give them job. But I believe if we have peace and stability in the Republic of South Sudan, we will be able to have investors. And if we have investors, we will be able to create jobs as a government, because investors would come and invest. They will look for people to do the work. Young people will be employed. And once they are employed, the government will be able also to tax them. And when the government taxes them, the government employees will be able to be paid. We will be able to move the development faster than we even believe. Most of the countries are built on tax. They are not built on oil. If we have a vibrant private sector, we will be able to move the development of South Sudan to a different stage altogether. So having peace and stability in the Republic of South Sudan is the most important. And we all, as citizens of this country, need to be ambassadors of peace. Because if we don't have peace, forget it. The rest will not work. The relative peace that we have had for the last 2 or 3 years, it means a lot to our nation. And we must keep that. We must hold on to it. We must make sure this country move in the right direction. I have believed if we have peace and stability, we will take off most of these countries that are surrounding us. But we should work for it. This is my message.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Puot Kang Chol, the Minister of Petroleum, for giving us your time and elaborating what your ministry is doing to improve our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this brings us to the end of the Investors Corner. I've been your host, Tech Stephen Ugut, wishing you a very good time. Goodbye.